Incest is one of the greatest taboos. It shocks us, it disgusts us, and this is for good reason. The dictionary definition of incest is sexual relations between people classed as being too closely related to marry each other. The problem is that people of royal blood think of themselves as being special, and as such don't wish to dilute their bloodline. Therefore, their only option is to breed with other people of royal blood. This smaller gene pool leads to genetic defects that can manifest as mental or physical issues. Throughout history, we have seen the problems interbreeding has caused. The great pharaohs of Egypt, for example, had no taboo when it came to interbreeding. They considered themselves gods. These gods would only breed with other gods and would even marry their brother or sister to preserve their bloodline. Fathers were known to marry daughters. One example of this was Pharaoh Ramesses II, who married several of his daughters. There were consequences to this inbreeding though. The famous Pharaoh Tutankhamun suffered from several serious disabilities, some almost certainly caused by several generations of inbreeding. Tutankhamun himself continued this family tradition for incest by marrying his sister, Ankhesenamun. They produced 2 baby daughters. The 2 children died soon after their births and were buried with their father. The pernicious effects of their incestuous birth were even more marked than on Tutankhamun. Both girls had spinal deformities, and the eldest suffered from Sprengel's deformity, which leaves one shoulder higher than the other, as well as spina bifida and scoliosis. These spinal deformities, coupled with their short lives, show the complications of incest. It seems the pharaohs of Egypt had no red lines when it came to incest, but they are by far not the only ones. The Romans, unlike the Egyptians, frowned upon incest. No Roman was supposed to marry or have sex with anyone closer than a cousin, although concessions were made later for provincial areas of the empire such as the Egyptians. However, incest was never acceptable for any respectable Roman, unless you happened to be a member of the imperial family. Julia Agrippina, or Agrippina the Younger, was the sister, niece, and mother of emperors. She is also reputed to have had sexual relations with her brother and son, and married her uncle. Bad or mad, the Emperor Caligula reputedly had sexual relations with all 3 of his sisters. The unprecedented honors he awarded them, and his known depravity make it likely. Caligula gave his sisters the same rights of the Vestal Virgins. They appeared on the same coins as Caligula, and he added their names to loyalty oaths sworn to him. After Caligula's death, Agrippina's uncle, Claudius, became emperor. After Claudius executed his wife, Messalina, for treason and adultery, the race was on to find a suitable replacement. The palace freedman, Narcissus, proposed Agrippina as a likely match, despite the fact she was the emperor's niece. Claudius agreed and changed the law so that he could marry his brother's daughter, and so the marriage went ahead. The only love or lust involved in the relationship between uncle and niece was that of power. It is debatable whether the couple ever consummated their union. However, as far as the Roman populace was concerned, it was incest, and so won widespread public disapproval. Claudius made Agrippina's son, Lucius Domitius Ahenobarbus, later Emperor Nero, his principal heir. Suetonius describes how Nero felt a lecherous passion for his mother, but unable to consummate it, he found a mistress, Act, who was her very image. However, as soon as Agrippina discovered her grip on Nero slipping, she reputedly gave in and slept with her son. Suetonius claimed when the couple traveled together in a closed carriage, the emperor often emerged with stains on his clothing. Tacitus also insinuates that Agrippina offered her son sex to control him, until he murdered her in AD 59. In more modern times, the royal families of Europe frequently intermarried, essentially restricting their gene pool, causing it to be common for first cousins to marry, but aside from the odd extreme case, it didn't get any closer than this. After several centuries of marrying within their own families, genetic defects began to appear, the infamous Habsburg jaw for example. This was most prevalent among the Spanish line of descent. The external effects of this were most readily seen in the male members of the Habsburgs, and less so in the female members, although both exhibited the Habsburg jaw. However, there were other problems that were less visible at first glance, like problems with the formation of the tongue, which led to speech problems for Charles II, the last of the Habsburg rulers of Spain. Based on known familial marriages of the Habsburg dynasty, experts estimate that many of the related couples shared nearly 10% of the same DNA. Hydrocephalus was again most prevalent in the Spanish royals, since they had mercilessly defended the crown through inbreeding for many generations. Hydrocephalus causes water on the brain at birth, something which can result in a wide variety of problems from minor symptoms to severely debilitating and lifelong consequences, and even death. But the disease also affected the British royals. Bacterial infection and hydrocephalus were the confirmed causes of death upon autopsy of 11-year-old Prince William, Duke of Gloucester, the oldest surviving child of Queen Anne and Prince Consort George of Denmark. William was one of a heart-wrenching 17 children that the couple lost. The couple were each both descended from King Frederick II of Denmark, being closely related cousins. The Habsburg line was also said to have suffered from this condition. Queen Victoria and her husband, Prince Consort Albert, were both carriers of hemophilia, a medical condition in which the ability of the blood to clot is severely reduced, causing the sufferer to bleed severely from even a slight injury. Hemophilia requires one set of recessive genes from each parent to pass to the children. The coupling of these defective genes from an in-family union is why inbreeding is so dangerous and unpredictable. Victoria and Albert were first cousins, and their son, Leopold, suffered his whole life, eventually dying at age 31 from hemophilia. Russian Tsar Nicholas II family was also affected. Before their murders during the Russian Revolution, the failing health of his son and heir, Alexei, prompted special help to be sought outside the medical establishment. The notorious Grigory Rasputin was brought in as a healer for the boy, which led to a series of tragic events, including Rasputin's own extended death scene. No cure for hemophilia exists even today, so it's hard to imagine what, if any, help was given to the boy. Queen Victoria was Alexei's great-grandmother. Madness, as it was called, was thought to be most prevalent in the British royal family, especially given that King George III, grandfather to Queen Victoria, famously went mad during the last decade of his life. His parents were third cousins. However, given the other evidence, there may have been many other mad members of European royal families whose ailments were kept secret, or which were mistaken for other diseases. In recent years, arsenic poisoning from cosmetics has also been suggested as cause of the king's ill health and mental illness. Queen Elizabeth II and Prince Philip were both descended from Queen Victoria. She was great-great-grandmother to both, but the bloodlines have been diluted enough that their children do not suffer from any of the above maladies. The relatively relaxed attitude of young royals these days have meant that they have married outside of the family, and have thus enlarged the gene pool and diluted any so-called bad blood caused from inbreeding. Incest can be devastating for a population genetically, causing all manner of diseases, and so is one of the greatest taboos we hold in the 21st century for a reason. Thank you for watching. To support us, please subscribe and give this video a like.